Super Rugby round 5, the Saturday games. And I guess comeback is the story of the two games that actually got played. Yeah, pretty big comebacks from the two winning teams. Very much games of two halves, despite that being a pretty massive cliche. We'll start with the first one. The Sunwolves have gone down to the Reds 34 points to 31. It's interesting, you just look at the times of the tries. Jamie Booth got the first one for the Sunwolves in the 12th minute, but then Wright got one for the Reds in 18. Then it's the Sunwolves 23 through Vosiako and Dan Pryor 37. The only other scoring the Sunwolves have got in that second half was Uchida at 69, but then you look at the Reds, second half comes good. Paenga-Mosa 59 and 66, Hooper at 62, and McDermott 75 to seal the deal. So yeah, it was really an amazingly contrasting performances between the halves, because the Reds in the first half were pretty bad. Whenever they had the ball, and they didn't want to kick the ball to like exit. When they were in their own 22, they just wanted to run it out, and they just looked terrible. They looked really bad. They couldn't get any ground. They were just going backwards, getting turned over, and they looked like a team that deserves to be kind of bottom of the table. But whatever Brad Thorne said to them in that halftime break, it worked, because they came out firing. And I mean, for their first half, they were always good in the scrum. They were getting lots of penalties there. For the most part, the Reds were able to do that to a lot of teams, apart from the likes of the Crusaders. And their maul was just dominant. Like, how many of these tries came from mauls? A fair few. Both are Paenga-Mosa's. Wright's one as well. So it was almost like guaranteed points whenever they would get a penalty, kick it for touch, get a maul, drive to the line. But everything else just looked poor. But the second half, it really did come right. The Sunwolves were looking the better of the two teams in the first half for sure. I mean, they themselves knocked the ball on a fair few times in the Reds' half, so they probably left a fair few points out on the pitch as well. So they'll be kind of disappointed not to have extended that lead a bit beyond what they had. But yeah, I mean, the game had its good moments. I mean, Hayden Parker cut down a free-running JP Smith, the big prop, so Hayden Parker sometimes get criticised for his defence. He did pretty well there. Higginbotham did a big tackle, kind of a seatbelt, which some referees might have flagged, but pulled Vosiako back off the line from scoring a second try, although the Sunwolves ended up scoring anyway. And yeah, Van den Heever was out in touch, going for one try on the 30th minute, so Sunwolves left points out there. They honestly could have been ahead by more, but whatever happened in that second half, the Reds started offloading in the tackle, and that's when they became too hard. And the Sunwolves kind of reverted back to that team which we've seen them do in the past, where they just start shipping points. Like the tries, 59, 62, 66. That's 3 tries in really quick succession that you just can't be doing. They just couldn't seem to settle down. They couldn't get back into the game. And it was just one offload, and then they were being cut to bits. So kind of disappointing for them. I mean, the halftime score was 21-5 to the Sunwolves, and they've ended up losing the game. So pretty disappointing for them. The lead did change 3 times. Uchida kind of went from hero to villain, because the Reds went in front. Uchida got his try, and the Sunwolves took the lead again. But then it was his kick that got charged down that led to McDermott's try. He was charged down by Hawkins. And it wasn't even Hawkins. I mean, Hawkins is a big guy. He's a big lock. He's 2 meters plus. It wasn't even his arms in the air that they hit. He hit him pretty much in the face. So the kick, the box kick for Uchida was, was just really poor. And the Reds kicked a penalty at the end to make it 34-31. So, yeah, I mean, speaking of costly, like there was a moment where Lucas and Fairway Sotia mixed up a kick receipt, and then the Sunwolves ended up scoring as well. So, yeah, neither team looks back at this game and goes, that was great. They both had a lot of stuff to improve, but they both showed kind of good moments as well. Two teams, I suppose, that are deservedly towards the bottom of the table. But if they can cut out some of those errors, both of them, Sunwolves hold a bit more for the 80 minutes. For the Reds, do a bit more of that offloading stuff, a bit more of like honestly the attack was just so pedestrian in the first half. And I'm a Blues fan. Like, I'm used to seeing our team just throw garbage at another team. And even I was looking at these Reds going, damn, I'm glad that's not my team. But they fixed it largely in the second half. Yeah, there were a few other crazy moments. Paia'awa took out one of the cameramen with a very crisp pass into the touchline. Took out one of the cameramen with his big gimbal thing. That's what the Reds were doing in the first half. They were passing to cameramen rather than to players. What was it? One of the Sunwolves guys got pretty much knocked out. Poliasi Manu got knocked out by Salakai Loto's shoulder. Like really, like he clipped him under the chin and he just fell. So yeah, that was pretty bad. Hopefully he's all good. But yeah, getting distracted. Overall, entertaining watch. Pretty tense stuff. I was feeling like a bit of a genius because I picked the Sunwolves in my Super Brew. At halftime I was feeling right clever, and then I ended up feeling less than clever. But hey, at least it was a good game. Sunwolves get a losing bonus point, much deserved. And the Reds get an away win, which is pretty rare for them. The Sunwolves are home next week against the Lions, although it is in Singapore, so it's kind of the home away from home. And the Reds host the Brumbies, so both of those sides, well, they had wins over this week, so whoever kind of gets on top there will be forcing the other one back down to being a real trailing team. The next one, the Highlanders against the Crusaders, was called off. That game was cancelled. It's been called a draw, in case you weren't aware. With that tragedy down there in Christchurch, the officials thought it's better to cancel the game, send the players home to their families. So you can't really blame them. I know some people on social media were a bit annoyed the fact that they called it off relatively late. Like some people had already travelled down to Dunedin to see the game, but I guess in the grand scheme of things, it's pretty minor. So stuff happens. Game's called off. It's a draw between these two teams. I was thinking if they were going to replay it, how would it work? Because there's very little. There's no real time to spare this season, like with the World Cup on. Like the schedule is already jam packed. So yep, there's definitely no way to replay it. It is called a draw. So yeah, I mean, like I said, you can't blame them for that. Get the players and the fans just to have a bit of time to, I guess, reflect and enjoy family's company, because yeah, they could certainly use it at that time. The last one, the Lions have taken out the Rebels 36 points to 33 in what was another kind of amazing comeback. What was the halftime score in the Sunwolves game? 21 points to 5. This game it was 26 points to 5. So it's an even bigger comeback from the Lions, and actually it was 32-5 because the Rebels were the first team to score in the second half. So the Lions actually opened the scoring. Malcolm Marks got his try from a little line-out move, which was pretty smart play. That was the 5, and then it was all Rebels. Hodge on 8, Cooper on 12, Meeks on 20. Meeks got an intercept to set up Cooper's try as well. It was a bit of quick hands. Nasarani 23, the TMO had to have a look at that one, and then second half English on 42. But 42 is where it stopped for the Rebels. All of the rest of the scoring is the Lions. This one I didn't actually see in full. I've only seen the highlights, but it was a pretty lengthy highlights package with all this scoring. A key point, I suppose, the turning point in this game, you got to say it's Billy Meeks' yellow card. Seems like the Rebels have been conceding a fair few penalties. 46 minutes, Meeks gets yellow carded. Schoeman scores his try from a few phases, and he scores from about 5 meters out. And Schoeman's got a real nose for the line as well. He's been scoring a few tries this season. So then it's followed up by Kutsia's try from a little quick tip pass from Yankees. And then Mapu's try. You kind of got to give Quade Cooper a bit of grief for that one, because it was a kick through under advantage from memory, and Quade kind of had it covered, and Mapu just went round him before the ball went out and just touched it down. I feel like Cooper could have got there and just booted it out, or perhaps forced it, but he kind of just ummed and ahed about it, and Mapo was Johnny on the spot. Very smart play, and that was a try that Timo had a look at that one as well. So during that yellow card, the score was 21 points to 0. Now, I talked about the Brumbies yesterday because they had 20 minutes with a man advantage against the Waratahs and managed to lose the yellow card period 3-0. They didn't score any points with a man over. There are teams who just know what to do when they've got the man advantage, and the Lions are apparently that team because they were just out for the kill. Skorsan got a try on the 63rd minute when it was back to 15 apiece. That was from a Quokka Smith break, and I guess that guy's sevens background really comes in handy because he's able to exploit a kind of bit of space, like a line break, the same way a back might. For all those people kind of concerned about his lack of size, he makes up for it with other areas. Second yellow card for the Rebels on 76 minutes from the maul. It was Cottrell. But whatever happened, because they didn't show the highlights between them and like the 80th minute, it seems like the Lions turned down a shot because they didn't score between then and the 80th minute when they got a Rebels scrum right at the death. The Rebels had the feed. It was full time. The scores were tied up, and then the Lions pack just put on one monster scrum and managed to get a scrum penalty, and then Lombard managed to kick it right at the death. Not an easy kick, but he kicked it 36 points to 33. That yellow card period obviously finishes 3-0, so 24 points conceded by the Rebels with a man down. Yeah, what a comeback. Unbelievable. 36 points to 33. So altitude, you got to say, is probably a factor here. The Lions are hard to beat at home partially because of that altitude factor. But the Rebels, it's another game where they've had a lead and kind of thrown it away. It's their first loss of the season. I'm thinking back to their game against the Highlanders last season where they needed to win. They went close, but over 80 weren't able to get it done. So yeah, you'd be pretty disappointed if you're a Rebels fan. If you're a Lions fan, you'd be pretty ecstatic at that comeback because it was massive. But the Rebels, to their credit, went a lot closer than I thought they would. I didn't buy the Rebels as being quite that good. I thought they were going to go to South Africa and have big problems because I didn't think they'd been tested, but they certainly proved better than I thought. So credit to them for that. They'll give the Sharks a good run for their money next week when they play. As I said before, the Lions are off to Singapore to play the Sunwolves. Which Lions team kind of shows up remains to be seen because it seems like the Lions, within one game, can be two different teams. So we're still not convinced on them either, but still pretty darn good comeback. Some key performers standing up and still a relatively young Lions team. So, yeah, very interesting weekend of Super Rugby. You guys let me know your thoughts on the games. How did you feel they went? And yeah, I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.